Whispers in the Pines.
I have never been able to love the woods the way some people do. Even now, decades later, the smell of pine needles at dusk, the crunch of dried leaves underfoot, or the way mist curls between tree trunks can send a cold shiver through me. People laugh when I say this. They call me paranoid, dramatic, maybe even fragile. But those people have never sat awake through a night in the forest, clutching at the thin fabric of a tent as if it could shield them from whatever moved outside. They've never heard whispers rise out of the dark, voices that don't belong to anyone, and yet seem to circle you all the same. I know what I heard. I know what I saw. And worst of all, I know what followed us back to camp that night. This story has lived inside me since I was 17 years old, and sometimes I wonder if telling it aloud only gives it more power. But silence hasn't erased the memory. It hasn't dulled the feeling of being hunted. So maybe it's time. Maybe if I tell it fully, exactly as it happened, I'll finally sleep easier. Or maybe I won't. Maybe you won't either. It was early autumn when my friends and I decided to go camping. Not the kind of camping with RVs and bathrooms and little stores that sell firewood, real camping. The kind that meant carrying backpacks heavy with gear, trekking for miles into the forest, and choosing a patch of ground that looked flat enough to hold a tent. There were 5 of us: me, Ethan, Lauren, Marcus, and Jamie. We were all high school friends, restless and eager to prove ourselves more adventurous than we really were. Ethan was the leader, always cracking jokes, never afraid of anything, or at least he pretended not to be. Lauren was my best friend, quiet but strong-willed. Marcus was the practical one, the guy who made lists and double-checked that we had matches, maps, and enough food. Jamie was the youngest and the dreamer of the group, always seeing magic in things the rest of us overlooked. And me? I was the cautious one. I liked the idea of adventure, but the reality of being away from lights, roads, and other people unnerved me. Still, I went, because they were my friends, and because saying no felt like giving up a piece of my youth. We hiked all day, following a narrow trail deeper into the forest than I'd ever been before. The trees grew close together, their branches lacing overhead until the sunlight turned thin and gray. The air smelled damp, earthy, and a little sour, as though something had been rotting just out of sight. Every so often, I thought I saw shapes between the trunks, a flicker of movement that vanished when I turned my head. I told myself it was just animals, squirrels or deer, but it made me grip my backpack straps tighter. By the time we stopped, I was exhausted. We found a clearing ringed with tall pines, the ground soft with layers of needles. The place felt secluded, hidden, like the world outside didn't exist anymore. Ethan announced it was perfect. We set up our tents, gathered wood, and soon had a fire crackling. As night fell, the firelight pushed back the darkness, but not far enough. The trees crowded close, their shadows stretching like skeletal arms. We roasted marshmallows, told stories, and tried to pretend we weren't a little unnerved. But the truth is, the forest has a way of making you feel small, like something is watching from just beyond the circle of light. It was sometime after midnight when it happened. I'd gone into my tent, zipped myself into my sleeping bag, and was lying awake, listening to the forest. Every creak of wood, every rustle of leaves set my nerves on edge. The fire outside had burned down to glowing embers, and the world felt unbearably still. That's when I heard it. A scream, high, sharp, and ragged with terror. A human scream.
Go!
Ethan! The name left my lips before I even thought about it. I knew his voice, and I knew that sound. It was him. I shot upright, heart slamming against my ribs. The others stirred in their tents, confused and half asleep, but I didn't wait for them. I unzipped the flap and ran toward the trees, barefoot, clutching a flashlight that threw jittery beams ahead of me. "Ethan!" I shouted. "Where are you?" The scream came again, deeper in the forest this time.
Go!
My blood turned cold. He sounded like he was in pain, like something had him. I didn't think. I just followed. Branches whipped against my arms, roots caught my feet, and the flashlight shook wildly, painting glimpses of bark and leaves. Every few seconds I heard him again, each scream pulling me further from camp. The forest swallowed me whole, the firelight disappearing behind me until I was surrounded only by blackness and the sound of my own breathing. And then, silence. No more screaming. No movement, just the dense, suffocating quiet of the woods. I stopped, chest heaving, panic rising in my throat. I turned in a circle, the beam of my flashlight slicing through the dark, but there was nothing. No Ethan, no sound, no sign of him at all. That's when I realized how far I'd gone. I had no idea where camp was anymore. My stomach dropped. I spun again, desperate, shining the light in every direction. That's when I felt it, eyes on me. A weight in the air, heavy and cold, as though something was standing just out of reach, watching. I ran. I didn't care which way I went. I just ran, branches clawing at my skin, leaves crunching underfoot. The flashlight flickered, threatening to die, and each time it dimmed, I thought I'd be left in total darkness. Behind me, I heard it. Footsteps. At first faint, then louder, faster, matching my pace. I couldn't see anyone when I glanced back, but I knew. Something was following me. My lungs burned, my legs ached. I stumbled, nearly fell, but forced myself on. The footsteps grew closer, and with them came something worse, a whisper. It started low, barely audible. Then it rose, curling through the trees like smoke. Not one voice, but many, overlapping, speaking words I couldn't understand. They surrounded me, pressing in, a chorus of hissing, murmuring tones that made my skin crawl. I broke through the trees and saw the faint glow of the fire. Relief surged through me so hard I nearly collapsed. I sprinted the last few yards, burst into the clearing, and fell to my knees. The others rushed out of their tents, alarmed. "What happened?" Lauren cried, grabbing my shoulders. "Something! Someone's... Ethan!" My words tangled. My chest heaved. I pointed toward the forest, but the trees loomed silent and still, as though nothing had happened. Ethan was there. He stumbled out of his tent, bleary-eyed, confused. "What the hell's going on?" I froze. He was fine. He hadn't left camp. He swore he hadn't screamed. But I knew what I'd heard. We didn't sleep after that. None of us. We sat together around the dying fire, huddled in blankets, listening. And we heard them, the whispers. They rose and fell around us, drifting through the trees. Sometimes they sounded close, right at the edge of the clearing. Other times they were far, echoing deep in the forest, always shifting, never stopping. Words that weren't words, a language that didn't belong to any of us. Marcus tried to be logical, saying it was just the wind. But there was no wind. The air was still. Jamie swore he saw shapes moving between the trunks. Lauren sat silent, pale, gripping my hand so tightly it hurt. Ethan tried to joke at first, but even he grew quiet when the voices circled nearer. Hours passed like that. Sitting, waiting, too afraid to move, too afraid to sleep. The whispers scraped against my mind, seeping into my bones. Sometimes I thought I recognized my own name among them, drawn out in a long, sighing breath. It only stopped when the sky began to lighten, when the first gray streaks of dawn pushed through the trees, as if the sun itself burned them away. By the time full daylight reached us, the forest was silent again. But then we saw it. In the center of the clearing, laid neatly on the ground, was the body of a hen, decapitated. Blood soaked the pine needles beneath it, dark and sticky. Its eyes were still open, glassy and staring. We hadn't brought it. None of us had moved. There were no tracks, no signs of who or what had left it there. Just the offering and the silence of the woods.